I have pivoted so many times, I circled right back where I started. I think I might have sprained something. Well, how did I get here? Let the water pull me down. Thanks, David Burns. And it's time for another unbuckled, bumpy ride with your guide, the stark raving LEAN-atic himself. I'm Jim. Let's jump right in again. Welcome to my podcast based on my brand new book, available on Amazon, Live Life Lean, L-E-A-N. It's a year-long guide to gratitude and our daily grind. The book that combines some timeless wisdom from a whole lot of the world's wiser people with the reflections, reactions, and wisecracks of the guide's author, me. And it guides you, the reader, through the simplest system for a happy, healthy, authentic, and genuinely grateful everyday experience. I urge you to get the book. Of course I do. I wrote it. It's either at Amazon or at my website, ampurage.com. A-M-M-P-U-R-A-G-E. But even without it, let's make next week better than last, our next year better than the past, and get started now with today's episode of... I remember now, just like it was yesterday. But it wasn't. It wasn't yesterday, it wasn't last night, it wasn't last week, it wasn't last month or even last year, much less just the last 11 plus months now of this COVID-19 pandemic pandemonium thing. This pivot thing that I'm talking about has been coming a long damn time. And so is the conversation for a whole damn lot of us. That word, pivot, it's been on my mind actually for over 2 decades, and in my heart. Since the divorce and end of my first marriage, and truth be told, if I look in the mirror, probably before then. See, but for us boomers, now facing these unprecedented times such as these, what a god-awful phrase. I am so tired of that god-awful phrase. The pivot, the term pivot, has become for many of us like a daily prayer. But maybe less of a heartfelt longing for prayer and more like a daily Our Father recital that we've just memorized. Or like a Hail Mary pass, a big throw up of throwing up our hands and our hopes. When we wake every day and we drift off every night, reminding ourselves to survive that we must pivot. We must pivot in order to survive. Hey, it's my pivot after all. It's my pivot, and I'll cry if I want to. It's my pivot party, damn it. I've claimed it, I've proclaimed it, and I've recycled it so often, I guess I've reclaimed it, but I don't know, perhaps what I originally intended as a leverage for a launch, I wound up using just as a crutch. Maybe I'm not the only one. Maybe folks out there can relate. Maybe, just maybe, lots of folks have. Maybe, I don't know, even someone you know. As a trainer for almost 4 decades, I've always believed in the power of the pivot. The human body is malleable, it's pliable, but it's not perfectly predictable. When what you sincerely try for yourself or with people does not work on that body, no matter how long you stand at the door of opportunity and you ask and you seek and you knock on that door, sometimes it just won't open for you. So what do you do then? So you pivot. You look around and find another door, or you find a window. Maybe you pivot so much you even find a more interesting home with a more promising entrance. And after you make that pivot in that direction, then you proceed with your bodies. In our bodies, that is the power of the pivot, and it is valuable. In our bodies, though. Yeah, see, in our bodies exists this dual mind, soul, spirit creature. Sometimes needs the power of the pivot as well. Sometimes not. See, we think we know what we want and where we're going and what we're doing and who we're doing it for or with, and then, bam, brick wall, in the face, cartoon coyote style, and we therefore must choose the power of the pivot. It's pivot or perish, I've heard folks say. But are they right? Are they right or just reacting? Has the pivot become our reflex response, kind of like a tiny rubber hammer to the knee? We begin to pivot almost on autopilot. Actually, we find ourselves, the problem is we don't find ourselves, but we end up waiting for the experience that inspires the pivot, reacting only to the chance to pivot, and perhaps, too many times, we do so for too long. The saying was not, "You've got to pivot towards something or you'll fall for anything." You've got to pivot towards something or you'll fall for anything. No, it wasn't. It was stand. You've got to stand for something or you'll fall for anything. Shoot, partner, I'm thinking somebody needs to make themselves a country song out of them lines. Just saying. See, for me personally, maybe my pivot has become my personal programming. Maybe for many folks it's become, quote unquote, our personal programming. So much, for me, I all too frequently ponder on why I am pivoting the way that I am instead of trying to power through that brick wall. Because simply put, too many pivots will just make a circle. Like that coyote, this time just chasing his tail. They do that, I think, don't they? We end up right back where we began. And it appears, at times, where I have pivoted myself into a corner. Have you ever asked yourself if you really know how to pivot? When was the last time that you pivoted on purpose, powerfully, with a purposeful direction and outcome? Not just to pivot past a problem in a different direction. Sometimes we've got to stand there and solve them problems. That pivot, was it a choice I made? Was it a valuable redirection? Do I ask myself? Or just was it like a course correction, so I just kept going, but I was just going someplace? Did it support what I believed that I wanted, or did it simply serve to survive? Now, survival is important. Sometimes that's what we all need. But should what we need sometimes be permitted to pivot us too often? So much so that it almost becomes our every time? A real genuine pivot is powerful beyond the circumstances of the moment. A real genuine pivot is powerful beyond the circumstances of the moment. A real genuine pivot is powerful beyond the circumstances of just the moment. But a lot of our pivoting in these precarious times may wind up, when we see them in the rearview mirror, as more of just a reflex reaction than a real flex of our power. See, the pivot should always be a choice. Otherwise, it's just a tool for resistance avoidance. A pivot should be reserved and recruited for the opportune moment, when the position I find myself in and the leverage that I perceive, that I possess, provides me a launch pad to my stars, not just another stepping stone in the same stream. A real pivot has the power to be essential. It has the power to be the essence of a victory, not the default dance step of feeling like, well, I got to pivot. Well, that's like a victim. Like the phrase this. You think about this phrase right here. Quote unquote, his plans for success pivoted on her involvement. Change it, doesn't matter. Her plans for succeeding pivoted on his involvement. Now that is a really powerful pivot. What's the difference? It's powerful for them both as a team and as individuals, and not just a reaction. Like a hinge where the door isn't going to function without it, a really powerful pivot is crucial to me. It's crucial to you. It's crucial to us getting what we wanted all along. Even if the outcome looks a little different than it did at our outset. And it can still be an exceptional outcome and not just simply an acceptable one. But ask yourself, is this the pivoting that I've been doing? Or have I just been using moments of adversity as stepping stones to make sure I try not to get wet in the drink? I claim those as my pivots, but this practice has more become a crutch, what I use to justify my current reality. My present little red dot on the map of where I'm at, and I call that succeeding. when honestly I'm just scarcely surviving. But hey, I'm pivoting. Aren't you proud of me? Huh. Ask, have you yet this year pivoted in a way that launched you into the stratosphere? Or have we all just been skirting on stepping stones? We're looking for the next dry foothold, not taking our eyes away from the stepping stones, but in the process, we're taking our eyes off of where we were headed and what we once wanted. Look, there's a stone, step there. Oh, there's another stone, step there. Eventually, following only the stepping stones, if that's where our eyes stay peeled, can lead us right back to the same shoreline that we first stepped off of. And we find ourselves, what happens is we find ourselves looking across that same damn raging river, and we are alive, but we're nowhere and no one at all any different than before. A pivot should be for the purpose of progress. See, where if we dared to pause and we took our eyes for a moment off the stones that we stood on, we might just have seen that fallen tree bridge over there that could have gotten us to the other side. And to be honest with you, it was the only way across from the get-go. But to get to it, we'd have been required to let go, get a little wet, and risk drowning to reach it. But if we did, then that would have been the pathway to success that our journey pivoted on. Is that what we find ourselves doing today, about a year later into America's COVID corona crisis? Or are we primarily pretending to pivot when what we're really too afraid of is just getting our feet wet? I don't know. You tell me. Right now, I'm looking out at the river outside my back door. I think I'm going for a walk. Now, more wise words to wow your socks off from the Lean Guide itself. Entry number 246, I believe. Do not conform to the patterns of this world, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind. The book of Romans 12:2. And the Guide's point of view on this? On this planet I wander, I'll walk this world for all my years, but the toughest space that I'll ever travel is the 10 or so inches between my ears. What do you think about that? What have you learned lately that's so valuable you want to never let it go? What have you earned, or what are you working to earn that is not just being easily handed to you? Where are you taking the chance to add to the world outside of just you now? Reflect, respect, and navigate somewhere next. Thank you for listening. I hope you're enjoying your copy of the Live Life Lean, LEAN guide. Enjoying it almost as much as I did creating it. And if you don't have a copy yet, go on over to ampurage.com or Amazon and get started today experiencing the amazing power of knowing every day is literally yours to be grateful about, and you need never feel unfulfilled again. I'm Jim Hall, and until next time, good health, God bless, and now go get a little dirty learning something new, earning what's not given to you, adding to this crazy world that we share, and navigating your way to something new and next.